Imagine two of Ghislaine Maxwell's nephews ended up working in the White House. And after part one of Jimmy Savile was a member of the OTO and how this connects to the Maxwell family, I don't know if anyone is either aware of that or knew it, but I did reference it in part one, which I am going to link to in the description box below. So if you have not listened to part one, you should listen to part one before you listen to part two. It's Kirby Sommers. Today is December 7th. And I just want to say that after I uploaded part one, I was signed out of all of my platforms. Every one. I had enormous trouble getting back into any one of my platforms, including StreamYard. So, in addition to that, there was a tremendous amount of pushback. I mean, look, we live in a society that basically, Satanists have run the world for a very long time. The way it's presented to the public is very innocent at first. You watch something like even back in the 70s, we can think, or the 70s, I think it was the 70s, where Bewitched, the sitcom, was on TV, and then we have Harry Potter, which is about witchcraft, and so it's presented to you in a very kind of, oh, nothing is really happening here, but it has been ongoing for a very long time. And therefore, there's a lot of, let's say, uh, dissatisfaction with people like myself who share information with you that's really unfiltered, and that, because what they like to do is to plant ideas in your mind. Like, of course, now we have satanic sacrifices in the form of concerts. All you have to do is go watch something from Beyonce, and people are wearing the devil horns, and it's just insane. However, because I explained to you how Ghislaine Maxwell, one of her sisters, and again, you must watch part one because I'm not going to repeat a lot of information, was, let's see if this is the photo. So one of her sisters married the son of Frank Molina, who, as you can see on the screen, is one of the close friends of Jack Parsons, who was a member of the OTO and who met an untimely death. Well, and then, of course, my conclusion was, well, if she married someone who was a Satanist, basically, does that make the Maxwell family, then, if we're going to use, just one and one equal two, or does it equal three? Then I'm going to say that, yeah, they were all Satanists. And what I basically went over in part one was that in the Netflix special, Jimmy Savile, A British Horror Story, that Ghislaine's sisters, namely Isabel and Christine, owned Magellan. Magellan is a search engine. It was one of the very first search engines. This is the actual screen image I took from the documentary. And you can see there that one of the people who was trying to research whether or not Jimmy Savile had committed the crimes that people were beginning to talk about back in the day, when he attempted to use Magellan, and here he put Duncroft Approved School. And we know that Duncroft, at least some of us know, and it's an easy thing to find, that Jimmy Savile, in fact, did abuse children from that school. Now, when they sold Magellan, meaning the Maxwell sisters, to Excite, at that point, search results yielded places where there were survivors, mostly women, who were talking about the abuse they had received by Jimmy Savile and his friends. And they were basically found in the early forums where people were sharing information, like before Facebook. There were these like rooms, chat rooms, and people would talk to each other. So it was clear to me that the Maxwells had in fact been protecting Jimmy Savile. Now we know the history of Ghislaine and how she became involved with JE. And sorry, I'm going to have to just continue to use initials for his name for this platform. And by the way, if you have not liked, shared, or subscribed, please do so. It will help the algorithm so that everybody becomes aware of what's been happening behind the scenes so that people can understand what the JE thing is. So I received a really interesting response in basically this was the robe I showed Savile in. It is an OTO robe showing that he was in fact a member of the OTO. Now I received this comment and I'm going to explain this to you. So this comment came in from one of the many people who were kind enough to leave ideas and thoughts, and basically try to be helpful with this instead of being completely opposed to the idea. And that's just pushback, and I don't even let those comments stay. But anyway, this guy says that the star on his robe is I'm just going to read it the way he wrote it, is a hendegram, each of its 11 points a letter. And it says abra cadabra. I am thinking it's cadabra, but it says the end beginning A meet to form the AA equal angel and abyss A, and then that these three dots are very important. And at another point in time, I will go into these three dots and what they represent, but I will not be doing that right now. So you go on to, they repeat twice. It was the former before becoming OTO. Crowley created the beginnings of what would become an intelligence agency, created mass media infrastructure that we are currently living through. It's like a trauma economy algorithm woven through anyway, it's about Kabbalistic black magic. In any event, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually share with you what I did find about this, which describes it perhaps a little better. And so I went and I looked for it. And what it is it was established in 1907 by Aleister Crowley and George Cecil Jones. Its members are dedicated to the advancement of humanity by perfection of the individual on every plane through a graded series of universal initiations. Its initiations are syncretic, unifying the essence of Buddhism. So it goes on with it, but what it doesn't say, which I find interesting, is that it does not talk about Aleister Crowley as a Satanist. I mean, he was the man who is a self-proclaimed the beast, number 666, the most evil man on the planet, right? So that even what's online as of now continues to be altered in a way that it does not look, I guess, too bad. So the way I left it the last time, that I was going to continue with part 2, would be that Ghislaine's sisters, meaning the twins who owned the search engine that wouldn't let anybody find Jimmy Savile, well, Christine Maxwell and her husband, Roger Molina, who again is the son of the Molina who was best friends with Parsons, they had 3 children, including Xavier Maxwell Molina, who was born in 1988. Now, I'm going to pull up a picture of her son in a second. Just bear with me, because I pulled up a picture of both of the nephews who worked at the White House. And I just want to, but again, you're going to have to bear with me because everything shut down for me. All right, so that's Alexander, and that's all right. So that's Xavier Molina, who is Christine's son, and I'm going to just share some information about him with you. So again, they had the 3 children. He was one of them. He was born in 1988. He graduated Tufts University, class of 2010. He worked at the White House. He worked for Barack Obama and Joe Biden, pretty much for the presidential campaign. Joe Biden, by the way, was put in office by Meshullam Rickless. Meshullam Rickless took Biden when he was very, very young and tried to fashion him in the way that Jack Kennedy had been fashioned. And in fact, he also had a hand in getting John Kennedy elected as president of the United States. And I suspect had a hand in the unalivement of Kennedy. However, it was my abuser's family who created Joe Biden. Now, Barack Obama, for those of you who are unaware, it's my understanding that he is, and he was a CIA. We've had many CIA presidents. Among them, I'll just veer off for a second. We have Obama, we have Clinton, we have a few more. I'll just go back to what I'm discussing now. So, in any event, his bio states prior to joining Nest Labs, so he works for a laboratory. He worked at a number of organizations, both in the public and private sectors, including the White House, the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, Akamai Incorporated, and again, Barack's 2008 presidential campaign. So here, I want to point out that whether you are a Democrat or a Republican, these people work both sides of the fence, right? We have seen Ghislaine Maxwell hanging out with Donald Trump, who is a Republican. He was at one time a Democrat. He changed. And however, we see now one of Ghislaine Maxwell's nephews working at the White House. So what he did was he had a LinkedIn profile, and it did identify him as an Obama White House alum. He also did a project at UC Berkeley where he was a grad student on the campaign, and he previously had listed this information on his LinkedIn account. However, he has also and on his then Twitter, but he then scrubbed it. So again, he worked at the White House. Now the next nephew is Carl, and let me just upload a photo of Carl. So these are 2 of Ghislaine's nephews. So actually, Carl is his father. There's a lot to. So this is Alexander Girassi, okay? And I think before I share with you what Alexander did, I want to share something about his father, or his grandfather, frankly. His grandfather, did I upload it? Perhaps not, but it doesn't matter. Let me just share it with you who his grandfather is, because now you know that the Parsons' best friend is the grandfather of the first nephew. And now you're going to find out who is the grandfather of this nephew of Ghislaine. He is the grandson of Carl Gerasi, who was born October 29th, 1923, and who died on January 30th, 2015. He's an Austrian-born Bulgarian American pharmaceutical chemist. He goes on, it's just novelist, playwright, blah, blah, blah. However, the important thing here is that he created the concert, the pill, so that women just do not have babies. He is considered the father of the pill. Now, he also was a professor at Stanford, which is connected to JE, but Stanford is known for their for their work in eugenics. So here, in Alexander's grandfather's life, he spent it making sure that he worked for, I'm going to call it the company meaning the power elite who run the world with their puppet presidents and their puppet politicians and their fake media and all the propaganda. So this guy was tuned in, and that's why his son hooked up with one of the Maxwell sisters, and and then Alexander ended up working at the White House. Now, Alexander worked with Hillary Clinton's State Department. He was for 3 years in the State Department, and he was a special assistant for the Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs from May 2009 to May 2011. He was promoted to chief of staff in the department in May 2011, and he served in that capacity until June 2012. Now, the Bureau covers the Middle East and North Africa, including Israel, Iran, and Libya. All right. So the attack on the U.S. Embassy in Benghazi, Libya's capital, it took place in September of that year, just 3 months after his departure. So his profile noted the events with which he was involved with, including the Arab Spring and the Israeli-Palestinian relations. Now, what I want you guys to remember, and you might want to go back and you'll find it yourself, during Kay Griggs' 7.5-hour conversation where she told you about her experience, and during that she also described places owned by my abuser's family, like the Riviera Hotel being a front for the CIA. She also talks about going herself to Hillary Clinton's to the specific division, the Near Eastern Affairs division, where Alexander was working. Now, she doesn't name him. I don't think, when Kay Griggs did that podcast, that 7.5-hour interview, nobody knew about Ghislaine Maxwell. And so she didn't mention Ghislaine Maxwell. She didn't mention him. But when I heard Kay Griggs' 7.5-hour conversation, I was able to identify, because I'm aware of the history. Oh, okay. She went, and what she said about her experience going there, she said, well, it's supposed to be the Office for the Middle Eastern Affairs. And she said that she only saw things that pertained to Israel, and she found it very unusual and it bothered her. So you may want to go check out Kay Griggs' conversation again, but listen to it with the knowledge that you have historically. I mean, so everything I share because it's part of history, the real history, not the history that's kept from us. So even at that time, Kay Griggs knew that she walked in there. It's supposed to be the Office for the Middle Eastern Affairs, blah, blah, blah. But there was nothing about the other countries, nothing about the Arabs there, just about Israeli stuff. And that bothered her. The Let me see what else I want to make sure to share with you. So, by the way, I have another book. It's available on my website. And I'm going to explain, hopefully, most of you will understand why I keep information on my website. So, this is about Leon Black. And I think a lot of people have questions about Leon Black. He, next to Leslie Wexner, he is the second largest financial, I'm going to call it, you know what, I'm going to call it funnel to JE. What happens with me is I write a lot and I collect a lot of information, and eventually I turn all of that information into a book format so that more people can read what I have to say and what I've discovered, and I always provide receipts. So this particular book, I decided to title, just give me 1 second because I'm just going through my notes here. So I just put it up this morning, and if you're on my list, meaning my Substack, and you just get even free, I uploaded a free thing this morning with all kinds of information, including, by the way, the names of the people whose masks were found on Jeffrey Epstein's island, so you may want to check that out. But anyway, this book is about Leon Black. I titled it United Fruit, the CIA and Mossad. And I go into Black's role multi-generationally because they all converge. I mean, all of my books are puzzle pieces, and they all intersect. So we see how Leon Black and how Leon Black's father intersects with other people who people don't see photos of these people together, or they don't know the name of someone, but they're names that people should become aware of, or geographical places, or geopolitical things, or certain coup d'etats, for example, or they're just so basically we go under the surface, right? Because mainstream media stays on the surface, and the surface, I mean, it's a very big story. It's about S abuse, right? And it's about S transportation. However, there's a reason for this. And the reason is underneath that layer. And in some cases, as with Leon Black, it's underneath several layers, because we are now in the third generation of the Black family as it pertains to our government in the United States and other governments as well. So that's available. I made it very affordable so that everyone can get it. The reason I do this is because when I put stuff on Amazon, because I have people like Glenn's family after me, I have the Wexner people after me, I have my abuser who continues to, make my life difficult. I already told you that after part 1 of this, I was logged out of all of my accounts, and a lot of unusual things do happen to me online that I will cover in a separate podcast. So that when I do this work, it's very exhausting because I have to jump through hoops. And basically, I'm working upstream. I'm working up a hill, pushing things away. It is not easy. So that I make this available on my website only because if I put it on Amazon, those people are going to go and leave terrible, terrible reviews, and nobody will ever read the information. In the manner that I provided to you guys, you can read the information directly from me. It won't be changed. I myself purchased a couple of my own books that I have on Amazon, and I may be removing them entirely from Amazon. I only have 5 there. And I've seen how the words have been changed. And in some cases, the words are gone entirely. So the only place that I feel comfortable sharing information with you directly is through my website. Now, I do have people from time to time, even though I say this, ask me repeatedly, "Oh, can I get this from Amazon, or can I get a hard copy?" No, you can get it on my website because, if I weren't a survivor of one of the billionaires that's above the JE level, and if I didn't have my own problems, and if I hadn't had 3 attempts on my life that I know of, and possibly there are more, but I have survived 3 attempts on my life. If I was just a Joe Schmo kind of person, then I could write these books and put them on Amazon, and yeah, people would still be upset, but their life would not ordinarily be in danger. For me, this is a matter of life and death. Now, I think that you guys know my information well enough to say, okay, I understand, and this way nobody has to ask me 100 gazillion times, can I do this or can I do that? The answer is no. This is the only way I feel comfortable. But you're going to love the information I include with Leon Black because, believe it or not, Woody Allen plays a role. And once you read this, you will understand the role that Woody Allen plays, because we've all seen the photograph of Woody Allen and Jeffrey Epstein. However, nobody has quite understood until you read this book what his role has been in this whole JE saga. In any event, this is the end of part 2 of the Jimmy Savile was a member of the OTO and how this connects to the Maxwell family. I hope I have explained it properly. If you have insights, I am really very curious to hear what you have to say about this podcast. Until next time, guys, have a good one. Bye.